Welcome back. This is podcast number 631, and this week we're going to discuss Andor, the last pod, episodes 10 through 12, Your Friends and Neighbors, episodes 3 and 4, and Duster, 1 and 2. And if you want to jump to any one of the shows, you can check out the time code in the description below. And with that, let's get on with the show. TV Campfire Podcast. We talk TV. Welcome to the show. Hi, I'm Libya, television editor, and this week we are recording from the HelmouthCon in Torrance, California. So that's why you get both me and Allison, who is, would like introduce yourself?
Yes, this is Allison, and I write reviews for 6 Degrees of Geek.
All right, and welcome back, Tom. Go ahead, do your intro.
This is Tom. I am in muggy Florida. I chair visual media arts at Palm Beach Atlantic University and also co-host the Screen Time on Ride podcast on iTunes and Spotify.
All right. We only have one piece of news that we think of as any import this week, which is that Strange New Worlds has been renewed for a 5th and final season.
Alien boom.
I don't mind a show ending on a good spot. 5 seasons is pretty good. So I'm not
even a full season.
But I didn't know about the whole not being a full season. So not being...
It's only 6 episodes.
Hey, that part sucks. That's the only news we have. And also, we're going to just kind of fly through this podcast this week because there's so much stuff going on at this con. We need to keep rolling. We almost didn't get Allison because she was too busy hobnobbing with the cast. And she's like, oh, I have to do a podcast? All right, fine.
I'm brunching. Annoying me with the podcast.
First, we're going to talk about Andor, the last group of episodes 10 through 12. And episode 10 starts off with the death of Luthen. Well, that
doesn't start with the death of Luthen.
That way, that is the general thing. But what I really liked about this episode is that it builds this tension in a really beautiful way because it just starts with this bell ringing. The phone's ringing. I was like, why is somebody picking up the phone? What's the deal? And you find out it's because it's a special alarm.
It's like the bat phone.
Yeah, they all are like, oh my God, what is that? And and I was like, why are you guys all freaking out? It's just a phone. When Luthen meets Lonnie, like I was like, why is Lonnie playing games, asking for security? I was like, dude, just tell him the information. But I feel like it's a weird thing where Lonnie was trying to negotiate for his safety of his family.
Yes.
Very, very much so. And he knew that this was a big bargaining chip. But I also feel like he didn't understand Luthen as well as he should because he basically burned himself. If he hadn't burned himself and let everybody know who he was, because Lonnie's not going to be able to withstand torture. Lonnie's going to give them up in a second. So Luthen is like, you just burned it. I can't let you walk off.
I don't think Lonnie really understood Luthen. Really critical.
No, he didn't.
It's been giving off every signal that it's like, all of us are expendable.
Yep.
And Lonnie is not getting this. He figures if he says, how critical the situation is and how bad things are, that he'll get him out of there fast.
Right.
And no, that's not really how it worked out at all.
The first time I watched the episode and Lonnie's got the big hole in his chest, I'm like, wait a minute. And I rewind. It's like, oh, Luthen. Just, of course you did.
It's so obvious that that's what Luthen would do, and you're still surprised. That's the
if you're not paying attention, you're like, oh, somebody shot Lonnie after Luthen left.
No, I didn't think that at all. I didn't think that at all. And then I love that.
But I did that the literal rewrite. It's like, oh, dang, this is bad.
But the real tension of the episode, though, is because Lonnie tells him that Deidre knows about you. She's coming for you. She's putting together a team to get you. So he's like, all right, we're on a timer. We got to go. And so he's giving her all the information. He's like, remember this, and go. She's like, what? No, my job is this. And he is moving like he knows that they're all going to die. But what trips me out is so like that scene when Deidre shows up is so beautiful because I am now crazy tense. Like I was so tense during that conversation because they're both pretending to be like so cordial to each other, and
well, they're playing cat and mouse, except for
yes, but that's my point. It built up the tension in such a beautiful way.
And the moment he shows her the ceremonial dagger, there was no doubt in my mind where it's going to end up.
Well, I didn't know.
Neil Chekhovian dagger.
I did call kill himself, but I kept expecting him to have a palm. I thought,
No.
I really, like, dude, you know, you've been saying for years that they were going to come for you. Why would you not have your whole place ring? Like, that I did not understand.
Well, then we wouldn't have had the entire rest of it.
Well, I get that. And it was dramatic and everything, but I still felt like, dude, if you knew this and you were ready to sacrifice anything, that should have been a thing that you had ready. That's my only issue. But other than that, the rest of the episode played out beautifully. The flashback, I loved them so much. I was angry that we waited so long to get them because it explained a ton about their relationship. The whole time we're watching all season, I don't understand why Claire's talking to him. Like, I don't understand why she's mad at him half the time. I don't understand, like, a lot of what's going on between them until you get this flashback. And then you're like, oh.
Yeah, my only issue, because I loved everything about the flashback, except for the fact that it took place at the very end of the series.
Yes. Yes.
Things that I would have liked to have known about them a long time ago.
Yes.
And had built up, or at least, given to us in little tiny bits and pieces throughout.
Yeah.
So that we had more of an understanding of where they were coming from.
Absolutely.
They've earned the right to do an episode without the title character.
Oh, yeah.
In episode 210, unlike Book of Boba Fett, what is it, 104? No Boba Fett.
That was bad anyway. Let's not go there.
But Elizabeth Dulau, and I gotta say, the de-aging tech for Skarsgård was amazing.
It really informed you kind of like who was in charge of that relationship, because I always thought he was just her boss. That's how I thought, like, because they are so professional most of the time. Like, I didn't realize there was this whole other undercurrent of
much deeper.
Yeah. So,
well, it's almost a surrogate father-daughter thing, except for the part where he's probably responsible for the death of her family thing. So,
well, I mean, but at least he felt so bad about it, he quit. Like, everything about that just freaked him out. So I thought that was worth it. The thing that bothered me the most about Deidre's confrontation with Luthen is she tried to make it seem like, oh, you're living in this lap of luxury while you have these rebels out somewhere you're not willing to sacrifice. You're just this and this and this. And I was like, you don't know Luthen. Luthen, he immediately then kills himself. He just laughs at her like, yeah, whatever.
Deidre has delusions of competence on multiple levels, which is going to get her in serious trouble in 211.
I mean, she's actually competent, except that she doesn't actually understand the imp. Like,
she's freelancing. She's doing all this stuff extra that she's not supposed to be doing. And that's not how a totalitarian regime works.
I know, but her whole thing is nobody really believes in me and lets me work. So I'm trying to prove myself, and she's going outside of the box to do that. But that's kind of rebel thinking.
They want people who will take orders,
and that's it. Yep, doing.
And that's it.
Well, told.
That's what fascism is kind of all about.
That moment she actually kills Luthen was beautiful because that's what he wanted. And then she's there with him. And somebody pointed out, as much as I was on my comment thread, somebody pointed out that as much as Luthen talked about how we're all going to die alone, blah, 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 he actually ended up dying with his daughter, with him, crying over him. And it was sweet. And I was like, oh, it kind of was sweet. Yeah, all right.
After she literally pulled the plug.
Yes, but I mean, it was
she blew it out.
But twisted.
Yeah. It was a mercy kill.
Yeah, and it was beautiful.
Definitely.
It was. But I want to move on to the next episode, which is basically now she's wanted because everything that she did, her face is everything. And I have to say, as a Krennic,
director Orson Krennic.
So they're like, we're on the hunt for her. We want to get her. What do we do? And they're all freaking out. Like, how are we going to explain why we want this woman? He's like, oh, she's got a disease. She's infected. If you see her, report her. And
that was Partagaz's idea.
Thank you. That's what I meant, Partagaz. So I loved the simplicity of it. And I also loved that it bit him in the butt in the end. Like, his idea, which seemed so simple and so pure and brilliant that it was going to get her caught, actually screws him in the following episode. But that's for the next one. But so for episode 11, Tom, why don't you talk about that one? Because that was more about she sent out her code into the wilderness hoping for aid.
Episode 211 introduces us to the most fearsome weapon in the Imperial arsenal, Director Krennic's index finger. on top of Dedra Miro's head, that wasn't scripted, so Denise Goff did not know Ben Mendelsohn was going to do it.
Oh.
And they probably used the first take because she's surprised. But the thing is,
if that was in the script, actually, because the look
it was not.
Was so genuinely shocked.
Yeah.
That
it was not.
It was just an absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. And it was, I was scared. I was at home by myself, and I was.
What's interesting, though, is Dedra's problem is she was sneaking around, not knowing that Lonnie's also sneaking around in her files, and that was her undoing. Right. She got into stuff she was not supposed to be doing, and he just, puts the fickle finger of Imperial fate on her head and says, why do you think I'm in this basement on this, toxic planet like that? Just take a walk to gas. And that's the whole ballgame. What's really interesting is everybody, I think we talked about this a couple of arcs ago, or like arc 2, where we're talking about this great chain of people using people. And Krennic, when we get to Rogue One, is being used by Tarkin. But the thing is, everybody in that chain ends up dead.
Yep.
Who, of course, is sent to retrieve Leia, but Cassian. And their history is prickly because he and Luthen had a prickly history. Exactly. So, of course, he and the surrogate daughter had prickly history.
They go to rescue her. They think that they've gotten in nobody knows that, but people picked up on her signal, and it's actually Dedra's info that lets them figure out where she is. And then they get surrounded, and the only reason they make it out is the robot decides to go rogue, and he's like, oh, there's a bunch of people here that are going to get my guy, so let me go kill them all. Like, he just rolls through, kills all those dudes, and that leads to the moment that I was talking about by Partagaz, where he realizes that his troops are all down, and he wants to send reinforcements, and they're like, oh, they're all off doing, containing this plague that you reported, and he's just like, oh, for the love of God. So, and he has this look on his face where he knows he has now screwed up. Like, this is his nail.
His second chance.
Yes.
In the end.
He's like, this is nail on the coffin. And he knows that he's done. Moving on to the finale, the big thing there is they all get back, and it's like everybody meets their fate. So Partagaz is the best. He's listening to that tape, that recording. It's the guy who wrote that manifesto that was on the radio.
Right.
When he's telling Cassian about it in season 1, Cassian blows him off as just being this idealistic idiot. But apparently it spread everywhere. And now Partagaz is about to be executed, arrested, whatever. He's not entirely sure what's going to happen, but he knows it's bad. And he's listening to this recording, and he's thinking about his whole career and everything that he's done to maintain the Empire. And he's like, I feel like he's at this moment of change. Like, he's at this brink of, you don't think
it's in Greek drama, it's called anagnosis, recognition. That's when you know what you've done wrong and your fate is sealed.
Yeah.
And it's a mercy that the dude leaves him alone in the room with his firearm.
Right.
So he can take his own life.
Right. I realize that's why the guy did it.
After all this, for Cassian to memorize the information, for him to get Clea to Yavin.
Right.
People don't believe him. And they're trashing Luthen.
Yeah. And he's so mad. Maybe so mad.
The thing I thought was really interesting about this show is they show that rebellions are messy.
Yes.
And they have different factions who end up having to work together. The fact that Guerrera, he won't even admit where he is. We know where he is. And he's like, yeah, because you send spies after him because you don't trust. I was surprised that Bail Organa was on the I don't love Luthen team he was kind of like the ringleader of the, it's Luthen, so we don't know if it's reliable. It's like,
but one episode, like when he got Mon
seriously
out of there, he saved him. So whatever.
Well, thankfully, Mon, evidently, I don't know if they're co-equals at this point, and some of those other senators, I just wanted to smack. It's like, just shut up, lady. We don't know you. We don't care about you. You're trashing people. We've been watching you for 2 years. But he tells Vel to talk to Clea and figure out if the story's true. I think it's really cool that the rebels don't know what the name of this super weapon is. They just know it's really bad. People don't realize spycraft relies heavily on human intelligence.
Right.
Which is why, there is no substitute for having a boots on the ground, especially a double agent in the flesh that you can rely on, that you can trust that the information is good. For a show written by 4 white dudes, they write women well, because you've got really compelling, interesting female characters with agency that run the whole gamut. One of them stone cold evil, Dedra. But you have Mon, you have Vel, you have Bick, you have, the ones that don't make it, you have Clea. But man, it's just amazing. And the fact that at the very end, as Cassian goes toward his fate, as in Rogue One, you see the Force healer give him a nod, and he nods back, and we get this final montage where we get to catch up with all our players.
Yeah, and Dedra ends up in prison, ironically, in Cassian's same outfit that he was wearing when he was in prison.
The same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sort of.
But my main issue with the finale of the episode is it doesn't end. It does not give you any kind of conclusion. It doesn't wrap up the series. It leads you into Rogue One, which is a whole different other piece of material.
Which is what it's supposed to do.
I understand that, but it did not feel satisfying.
Because it leads into another thing.
I know that.
We have all seen that. And even if you haven't, you can go immediately into Rogue One.
Realize what I did.
It leads immediately into...
I know. That's my problem. That is literally my issue with...
I did not have an issue with it. I thought it was interesting. It's fascinating that there's been pushback on Vix's departure and the fact that she was carrying, when she broke up with Cassian, she was carrying this child.
I hate that.
And the reason they did it, though, is to show that there's still hope. Because otherwise, basically, everybody we know and care about, except for Mon Mothma.
What I liked about it was the fact that it did figure that its audience was smart enough to put together, okay, this is where the characters end up with here. But we see exactly what happens next in Rogue One. So they figure, okay, we can put those two together. And then we move on to what happened in what's now called A New Hope in Star Wars. And the thing is, what I loved about it tonally was that it didn't strive, except for the bit with the kid, which I have to agree with Libya with, I wasn't that thrilled with. But except for that, it wasn't a super happy ending. A lot of the characters we've grown to love die in the course of this, and we know are about to die in Rogue One, and will not see the end of the Death Star, will not see the end of the Empire. And that's how revolutions work. That's in a real rebellion, is that there are people who are key to the success of the rebellion who will not survive to see the end of it.
Right.
And some of the people who, and it gives a new spin to when we see that scene in Star Wars where we see Luke and Han, getting the medals at the end. It's like these are Johnny-come-lately.
Yeah.
At the end just to shoot up the Death Star. They didn't do any of that.
That's actually hilariously true.
They didn't do any of the heavy lifting.
No.
They're the ones that get celebrated and turned into
heroes
and they're the ones who all the mythologies are going to be written about, and not the guys who did the real heavy lifting.
That's fantastic.
And their names are going to be forgotten, and really kind of hits you. Why?
Yeah.
So I am so taken with Andor because it does take that back.
Yeah. Let's move on to Your Friends and Neighbors, episodes 3 and 4. for a show that I didn't know if it was going to work, I feel like this is the beginning of when I'm like, oh, this show might actually work. In episode 3, it's the parties. It's the party where the guys are all at Nick's house going to his party. So Coop doesn't want to go for a very good reason, which is he hates Nick because Nick's sleeping with his wife. So that makes sense. So everybody's like, no, but you should go and show that you're cool. I was like, really? You guys all think he should go?
He's not cool.
I know. That's my point. I was like, why are you torturing yourself and going to this party? So, but the party ends up being interesting because it's like, you got this basketball star and everybody wants to play basketball with him, which I think is insane. I would not want to play. Not, like, I might want to shoot a little bit against a basketball pro just to say I did it.
I got dunked on by Michael Jordan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. To say I did it, that would be cool. But I'm not trying to play them one-on-one. Like, that's insane.
Well, one guy discovers
Yes, exactly.
that particular attempt.
Get broken legs. But the main thing about the party is that Coop and Paul, who's the ex-husband, or almost soon-to-be ex-husband of the woman
of Olivia Munn
that Coop is sleeping with, they end up getting into it because that dude is just a jerk. It lets you see that there's real tension, that there's feelings happening that people aren't necessarily admitting to. So that's kind of interesting. And then the women have the self-defense class where the wife is realizing she likes a little bit of danger. She likes a little bit of extra violence, which is, I'm not sure where that's going, but I feel like that's going somewhere.
One of the things that happens during the party is when he opens up that display cabinet.
Oh, that happens at the very end.
Yeah, it's got that
ring,
electronic thing, and he takes the ring out,
and then there's somebody behind him. That's the cliffhanger. Is you hear a gun like behind him, and you're like, what the heck? In the next episode, you find out the person who has the gun is the cleaning lady for Nick, and they were like, oh, you're robbing people? How are you doing that? You're just doing it wrong. Let's do it better. So the two of them working together is fantastic. I love it. I like that he now has like an inside person who can scope stuff out for him instead of him just guessing. Like, it's really messy the way.
And she's got a cousin who did the security for a lot of the houses who can tell them how to bust the security for the house.
Exactly. So
it kind of clicks into gear.
So now it feels like a real operation.
Yeah. Well, I especially like the character of pawnbroker / fencer. Oh,
he's awesome.
Yeah, he is great.
He's awesome.
Yeah, great. I mean, that is a wonderful character. Just the entire concept of her, and she's played brilliantly too.
Yes.
So just the interaction between the two of them is just gold. I love those scenes.
Well, 104 is where, for me, the big event in the episode is Nick is obviously way into Mel, and so he decides to throw her a surprise party unbeknownst to her.
Yes.
And who ends up at the surprise party?
Yeah, she very, very, very clearly says, do not, under any circumstances, throw me a party, surprise party, nothing. So then they do it, and then when everybody expects her to give a speech, she's like, yeah, I don't feel like it. Like, and then he's shocked and his feelings are hurt. And I'm like, dude, what? It
wasn't like she was wishy-washy about it.
No.
Intimated.
No.
I don't want it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And he insisted.
And then
what I thought was interesting about this episode is we find out that there's a lot of heat still between Mel and Coop, despite the whole adultery and betrayal thing. And they get kind of close, and they're kind of flirting with each other, which usually don't do with divorcees.
I thought it was thumbs up. I really like those.
I know, it was interesting.
Yeah. Let's move on to Duster real quick, and let's see how much we can talk about Duster before we wrap. The setup for Duster, it's a period piece. You have a black young woman who is fresh out of the academy and
FBI
Academy. That's what I meant. Oh, I guess it could have been Police Academy.
Yeah.
So she's at a new field office, and I can't remember the town.
Well, I think it's in Boston that she actually graduated.
Yeah, but I mean, where is she now?
Where they send her, I think, is Phoenix.
Yeah.
I think it's Arizona, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right. So the big deal is, 1, she's young. 2, she's a female. 3, she's black. And it's like in the early 70s and nobody wants her there. She is not caring. And at first I was like, I mean, I get wanting to prove yourself. It felt a little like Deidre from the Empire, like she's trying to break rules. But then you realize very quickly that it's not just her trying to prove herself. She is going after this dude for a reason.
It's personal.
And it's very personal. And she does not care who you are trying to tell her to stop. She is not stopped. And that makes her reckless, but also interesting. I would say she's more interesting than, Lost, dude.
Josh Holloway.
Thank you. His character feels like Sawyer got literally teleported from Lost to this time period, and now he's
1970s.
Yeah, and I'm like, why?
But he's still, I mean, he's still got that roguish, charming way about him. I mean, he's got a few more
roguishly charming.
Crow's feet.
Really feels like the exact same character.
See, I didn't see Lost, so I have not. In fact, at him and going, I know that guy. I finally realized, he's from Colony. That's why I knew him.
That's hilarious.
He's trying to survive the apocalypse. So it's
what's kind of
funny.
I'm a big Josh Holloway fan from Lost and Colony. Didn't watch his short-lived CBS thing because nobody else did either. But the thing that's missing is he doesn't have a love interest who's equally compelling. Here, it's just him trying to figure out the circumstances about his brother's death.
Well,
I mean,
he's got baby mama.
That's not his baby mama. That's his
wife.
No, but
his brother's.
I feel like they were like, does she know that you're really her father? That you guys didn't hear that part?
No.
He's really that good.
I did hear that, but the cover story is that's his brother's.
I know that's
brother's widow,
but that's really his daughter. That's not really.
Yeah,
I understand.
But the thing is, still, we don't have his relationship with Rachel Hilson, the Fed. They're not romantically connected, nor will they ever be. The permutations I've seen of him, I like best when he's got the, because he can flirt with whatever woman you have on screen, and but you kind of want that from him. Corbin Burnson to play his ne'er-do-well dad, and Gail O'Grady playing his icky stepmother.
I do not like his stepmom. You're not supposed to, but
she's off.
But I find her to be even more irritating than I think she's supposed to be. Like,
really? Because I thought she's
pretty much Janie one. That's my problem with her.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, but I mean, I think we haven't seen a lot yet. I mean, they can develop her later.
I guess, like why she has,
or if you're caught up
immediately.
But I mean, I think that's the thing. We're starting off seeing her hit this one note repeatedly, but I think they have to develop her so that we find out that there are other layers. I mean, there has to be a reason other than, the obvious, that father is married there.
Yeah, there's a couple of things we haven't talked about yet. One, the Native American partner, which is I like that. I like the kid quite a bit, and I like the fact that basically she's appealing to, because he's been there for a while, and everybody treats him like trash too, because he's he's not Anglo. So I like the fact that she uses his loyalty to help her do some stuff. She's going to end up getting him in some trouble a little bit.
But I like that he basically asked her, like, well, what are we doing? He asked the question.
And then Keith David as the definitive big bad.
Yes.
Dude is pushing 70 and looks freaking amazing. He and Ernie Hudson, I want to know what they're doing, because Hudson's pushing 80. David's pushing 70. They both look freaking amazing.
And they're still,
but that voice.
Yeah.
Wow.
The charisma, the voice, and he may or may not be responsible for Josh Holloway's brother's death.
Probably.
He definitely is responsible for Rachel Ilson's dad's death, which is why she's got why she's like a dog with a bone to bust him. But the fact that they keep running into roadblocks everywhere through the channels,
it shows that there's
cover up of some kind.
Yeah, there's something bigger going on that you don't see. So that's going to be there. I mean, I think they've set up an intriguing story, but I think we're all going to be into it to see what's going to happen next, and we'll talk about it.
I was not inclined to watch it because I thought it looked like some kind of Dukes of Hazzard thing, and I stayed. But it is more than just car chases and good old boys, running around. I think there's an underlying story of corruption and a larger thing that's going on. So I'm in for the story, and I think the cast is one.
I think they have a good cast.
It's
So
fun to watch.
I think it's going to be fun. Well, let's wrap this up. And we will check with you guys next time and look for the next podcast. Laters.
Bye-bye.
Bye.